Dancing with Fire, Rising Above the Winds. Sammen med skriveren som heter Essmat Sophie, med Gelayul Salamali og med Emmanuel Shukrian. So we are going to discuss some different things today. We will talk a little bit about the exhibition, then we continue with the content of the novel, the context of the novel, and we also talk a bit about the translation of the novel that will be translated to Persian by Emmanuel and to Norwegian by Gelayul. And also Sophie will give us some book readings. So let me start with, and of course in the meantime we also have some space for questions from the audience, so we will get there. Let me start introducing Essmat Sophie first. So Essmat is an award-winning author, film director, researcher and activist. She's originally from the Kurdistan region in Iran and lives now in Norway. She has different master degrees in information science, English and American literature and social science from University of Oslo and University of Tehran. So next to the book that we are discussing today, which was published last year, 2023, she also wrote Last Day of Autumn, which is a collection of short stories about immigrant lives in different countries, mostly about women. And she also wrote In the Eye of the Storm, which is a translation of poetry from the famous poet, Kurdish poet Sherko Bekas. So the publication is in both in Kurdish and in Norwegian. And with that publication she won the Ordknappen Prize in Norway. So while publishing this book she also worked on a short animation film with the same name, which got different awards. And the animation film takes a short section of the novel, and she worked together with Mr. Mohammadi, who is an Iranian artist, and they reworked this section into an animation. So we are very happy to have you here today. Thank you very much. And I'm excited to hear more about your book and everything we are going to discuss. Maybe Gelayul wants to introduce herself now.
Yes, my name is Gelayul Salamalahi. I work in healthcare from day to day. I'm doing a master's degree, which I'm finished with in May, and I'm also an activist, part-time activist, and I'm also translating this book from English to Norwegian. So I don't know, I think it's enough about me, actually. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy to have you here.
Thanks.
And then our third speaker is Emmanuel Shukrian. I will introduce you. He's an Iranian psychologist and researcher in the field of psychology and sexuality and gender studies. He is the author of several books and articles that were published in Persian, and he also is the author of a book about the history of homosexuality in Iran, based on archival material of the last centuries. That's correct. Before leaving Iran, he founded an organization for the rights of people with a disability, and he managed the organization for which 20 people worked. And since 2018 he lives in Norway, works here while continuing with his research and writing. So, thank you for being here. Let me give a very short first question to Sophie, which is about this exhibition. So, very short about the exhibition. I was the initiator of the exhibition because I work in different projects about Kurdish women. One part is, you see at that side, is about Syrian Kurdish women who recently came to Norway during the Syrian war. And these pictures were made by Ifit Qureshi, who is not here today. And the other series was made by Benjamin Farnham, who's still here with his camera, and who made a series about activist Kurdish women in Norway, and they are from different regions. So Sophie is actually one of the people photographed here, which is how we got the idea of having this event. So Sophie, the first question, your novel takes a strong woman as its main character, and it also describes important events in the history of Iranian Kurdistan and shows many experiences through the perspective of different women. Previously, you have called yourself and the novel also feminist. With this exhibition, we wanted to show a counter-image of Kurdish women's lives and activism, and you are one of them. Can you say something about your reasons to participate in the exhibition and what you think of the result? Do you think it creates such a counter-image, and does it succeed, or maybe how does it fail to do so?
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I am so glad to be here and an honor to sit with two skilled translators. And an honor to meet all of you, especially I'm a little bit stressed because Professor Ragnar Audensen, my mentor in my previous master degree, is here, and he probably evaluates me, so that's why I'm a little bit stressed, so I am not so comfortable. Even though it was my initiative to invite him, but I didn't expect that he comes. Thank you so much. It is an honor to meet all of you. And thank you, Wendy. I know you and Benjamin did a lot of effort to make this exhibition. Actually, for answering your question, my participation stems from my commitment to amplifying and empowering women from Kurdistan, their voice, their dignity, their struggle. And this exhibition is kind of a storytelling and visual representation of Kurdish women in exile. And I always define myself as not just feminist, but activist as well, and advocating for dignity and right of Kurdish women, or Kurdish people in general, but especially Kurdish women. And I think my mission is to give voice to those Kurdish women, and this exhibition is kind of giving voice to voiceless people, show their struggle, their life process, their social and political struggle. And with participating in this exhibition, I thought maybe I can contribute to showcase how is to be a Kurdish woman in exile, and how is their challenges, and also to show the social and political context of everyday life of Kurdish women in exile. And I just appreciate your effort as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So let me first very shortly tell you what the novel is about, so that we have a little bit of context before we start with the discussion. So the novel has two main characters who are called Tara and Hiwa, a woman and a man, written from both their perspectives. So they are alternating chapters, either about her or about him, and then again about her. So Tara is a middle-aged single mother who lives in Norway with her two teenage children, and Hiwa is an elderly man who lives alone in Istanbul, in Turkey. And they both originate from the same city in Rojhelat, so Iranian Kurdistan is called Rojhelat in Kurdish, and the city's name is Sanandaj, or Sina. And through their memories, the reader learns about the revolutionary history of the city. It was attacked by the Iranian regime shortly after the 1979 revolution. Also, we learn about the consequences of the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s, and about daily life experiences of both characters studying at Tehran University, but in different time periods, because Tara is much younger than Hiwa. Another important theme in the novel is the sexual abuse that Tara experiences from Hiwa. And in her life in Norway, she tries to grapple with the consequences of his assault and to overcome her trauma. And we get to know Hiwa through his often lonely reflections on his life and contacts with different women. His elite background and his university position have turned him into a selfish, narcissistic man who is unable to positively connect to the women in his life, and he instead tries to destroy him. Both characters live in exile and have different experiences with their migrant lives in Norway and in Turkey. So the novel in this way also touches upon life in exile and the fragmentation of memories depending on different spaces where the protagonists have established their lives. So to start, we are now going to talk about the content of the novel, and Gelayu will take over from me to ask questions to Sophie. And to start with that part, we will first listen to a book reading by Sophie from her book.
Thank you. The book begins very gloomy and dark, but it doesn't end in that way. But I want to show you, I just read from a part that shows contradiction between two worlds that the protagonist of this novel experience. My childhood memories are full of contradictory images. When I take my brush to the canvas to draw those recollections, the result is a twofold images of our alley, neighborhood, city, and people. One aspect is painted beautifully with happy, vibrant colors, and the other is hideous with bitter gray coloring. I can still inhale the sweet fragrance of most of my memories with incredible joy and maddening bliss. I remember tender April shower, magical rainbows, mesmerizing melodies of birds, the beautiful ponds formed by the Kanishafa spring waters boiling out from the heart of Abidar mountain. I remember the stunning peak of Abidar standing strong before my eyes every morning, displaying their glory and magnificence. I recall meadow filled with colorful flowers on the mountain skirts, narrow city alleyway, and our town and our own long and busy alley. I recall houses in which every window was a mysterious opening into the secretive walls of the neighbors, the kind faces of old men and women in our city appearing in my mind, along with the fruit trees in the garden of Karashid. I relived the times, the large, bright, and tranquil rooms in Mahkoli's house and the two dark, quiet rooms in our own home. Thinking of Nowruz in past year, I reminisce about the colorful eggs, wearing new dresses for New Year's and religious celebration, and receiving guests on the occasions. I hear love songs sung by young girls while weaving carpets, and especially the Kurdish song Bartonane. The recollection of that world drips like life-giving waters on my drop by drop, quenching my thirsty soul and caressing my being and everything inside of me. The other world, entirely distinct from the first, began from the middle of our house, our alley, and our city. This other world was overflowing with the deafening sounds of jet fires that broke the sound barrier, the noise of bombs and gunshots, the clamor of pain and death, and wakening up with a military gun pointed at you by a revolutionary guard. This other world smelled like gunpowder and was nothing but a humid rat shelter. It was a world of wicked people and brought to mind Death's turbulent and crisis-stricken childhood days, when we jumped and journeyed from revolution and mourning to war and rains. I have always lived on the border of these two worlds, under the weight of forced identity, without the right to choose any of it by myself. None of it, not my gender, not my race, not my geographical position, not the era in which I was born and raised, and not the culture attributed to me was of my own choosing. Sorry, my children are here and I am sure that they laugh at my accent, my English accent, so I'm sorry, it is not my first language.
It's perfect, thank you. So Gelayu, can I give you the word to start with your questions and discussion with Sophie? Thank you very much.
Yes. Sophie, what's the writer's role from your perspective?
Do you know, as a writer from Middle East, as a woman from Kurdistan, a nation without state, I think if you happen to be a writer from a wounded democracy, from a wobbly country and wobbly democracy, it is actually very important to begin with ask questions. Asking difficult questions about difficult issues. So writing to me is not just entertaining, and if you happen to come from a country like Iran, originally from those areas with a lot of turmoil and problems with democracy and freedom of speech, so you don't have that luxury to not be a political, you know. You have to be political in your writing. So if you look at my writing, it is delving into political, social, psychological, love, suffering, everything that is about human feelings. So in the same time, I am feminist. I define myself as a feminist, and I learned from feminist movement that we have to be aware about power structure, the power dynamic and power relation. And when I'm talking about power and politics, I don't think about power and politics in like to be in a political party or in a parliament, but I'm thinking where it is the power relations and power dynamic and power hierarchy. So you have to engage as a writer and show that hierarchy and stay against and talk about it and speak out. In the same time, I think my purpose is to shed light in minorities people, in people who have no voice, the people who are marginalized, and to give an opportunity that reader has like empathy and sympathy with those people. And I think all of my life I was advocating of minority groups' rights and freedom of speech, advocating for freedom of speech and breaking taboos as well. And also to talk about core values as a human, as a woman as well, like universal values. I am not belonging to a tribe or like a nation. I define myself as a global soul. I am a citizen of the world, but in the same time, I cannot deny that I am a Kurdish from a nation that has no voice and has no state. But I am very against of tribe and tribalism and clan. I try to show different voices in that novel, and my purpose was to just give voice to voicelesses, bring the periphery to the center, bring the marginalized and discriminated and minority people to the center, and show how is their social and political struggles. So as we say resistance is life. So I want to resonate in my novel those resilience and resistance that people from my community and my society face. And I think as a woman, it is very important for me to have like a feminine energy as well. So my main characters and strong character in that novel is they are women, and it is like giving that feminine energy in the novel writing. And yeah.
Thank you. And you can see that my second question is approximately related to the first one. Maybe you partially answered it, but I'll ask it anyway. What is active writing as a perfect activist?
Yes, exactly. Do you know, I think those people who experienced a lot of tyranny, all of them, they say the opposite of wickedness, badness is not, opposite of kindness is not badness or wickedness, but it is numbness. It is to be indifferent, don't care about what is happening around the world. So I think small steps, all of us maybe we do some small steps in our life. It is kind of activism we do without we knowing that. So I think activism is about those small steps. We don't have to go to the street and chanting and just do those traditional definition of activism, but I think those writing, singing, because you know singing is in Iran is like forbidden. Singing as a woman from Iran, writing, stay against every indifference and numbness. So it is the most, in nutshell, I can say that it is the core fighting or struggles against those core values we human are very engaged of, as like a human rights, a right of minorities, right of LGBT people. All of those are definition of activism. But the most important is not to be numb, not to be indifferent and desensitized.
Thank you. As a Kurdish woman who has experienced life across various countries and in exile, how do you define your identity?
Identity, it is very difficult because I don't have like a collective identity. I don't belong to just a Kurdish nation or just as a woman to be a feminist and with a feminine energy. I define myself as a mother, as a woman, as a Kurd, as a one that is cares about universal values and have a like a globalization view and aspect of life, and I am citizen of the world. Not because I am stateless, I am coming from a Kurdish society that we don't have a state, but if I was from other country, from Norway as well originally, I didn't define me as a Norwegian. I don't define myself just as a Kurdish. So I think I am a citizen of the world. I have different identity. I don't belong to just one identity group. I think if I just define myself as a woman from Kurdistan, so I fall in the trap of nationalism and tribalism. So I define myself as a citizen of the world, the one who belongs to everywhere, and I don't like that fragmentation of and categorization of people's identity, you know. So I can call myself citizen of the world, and I think it is enough for me.
Sounds good. I can see that there is intersectionality throughout your whole book, throughout the stories, and I see it as a kind of theoretical frame for analyzing, to analyze difference, to analyze oneness within a group, or and my question is that what scenarios do you think intersectionality can fail to achieve its intended goals as a beneficial analysis, like a tool?
I think I'm advocating intersectionality in many ways, and I always did in my work in different, either from like academic writing or from novel writing. Intersectionality is very, very important to give voice to voicelesses, to the marginalized, to minority groups. But in the same time, I'm very afraid I have a very critical view in the last years because I see people are categorized, they are divided in different groups. And at the end of the day, if I can say in a nutshell, so they can communicate with each other. If we put people in different categories, for example, if I put myself as just a Kurdish woman, that my identity intersect with be a woman, be from minority group, minority from like a race group or religion group or ethnicity. So suddenly I find myself very alone in a tribe or clan, my clan or my category. So I think it is kind of that worry me that it categorizes people and maybe those people cannot communicate with each other, divide people. But in the same time, the basic and essential of intersectionality is actually very important, but we have to be very aware which way we go. Is it to, what is the purpose of intersectionality? Is it to go further to have a more included community and society, or is it to divide us from each other? And at the end, maybe none of us understand each other, and it is like a worrying case here.
Yeah. Thank you. I can see that you're referring a lot to Rumi, the poet, in your novel, and I was wondering why you're doing that.
Oh yeah, we had a discussion with you. You know, maybe because of my background. You know, in Iran, Sophie means one which has relation with the core of universe and like a mysticism. And when I read Rumi, it is about love, about light, about universal values, about everything. For example, Rumi says, "My religion is love. I have no religion." Do you know? We people are very divided, and I think it is so important to have unity, and Rumi and other mysticism do it. I'm very critical against religion because religion divides people. It is like a duality, make a wall between people. It is like, I have the truth, I am closer to the God, you are not closer, I am enough closer to the God, I have the truth, I have the core values is belonging to me. But you know, that's why I always like faith, but not religion. I respect every religion, but if I have to choose, that's why I mentioned in this book, I choose faith because faith is always coming with doubt. But religion comes with dogma. It is like me against others, you know. It is like I am the better one. I am the closer to the God. But you cannot find this one in mysticism. And if you look at the history of mysticism in Iran, or for many years ago, Rumi lived for 800 years ago. But his values, his universal values, is very updated. And very relevant today as well. And many of those mysticism, they either have been censored, oppressed, or killed, like Shahabuddin Sheikhi or Hallaj. You know, they killed them, they suppressed them, they censored them because those religious fundamentalism, they are afraid of faith. And it is different between faith and dogma or religion, that faith opens the way for you to have a unity and doubt, and criticism, but religion is like with dogma institutionalized and instrumentalized as well, and that's why I think it is so important for me to come with another way, out of it, and say, okay, we can talk about love, we can talk about faith, but we don't necessarily need to talk about dogma and institutional and instrumentalizing way to get to the faith. Yeah.
Thank you. I can see there are flashbacks, a blend of history, historical events, and imagination characters in a conversation throughout your book. And what is your aim by doing that? What are you trying to achieve by doing that?
Many of lines in my novel is about memory and history. It is a lot of flashback to go back to in the mind of Tara and Hiwa. Hiwa talks about pre-revolution in Iran, 1979, and Tara, because of her age, talks about after revolution. So they are either in their isolation thoughts, they go back to their memory and they have a lot of flashback, but in the same time it is a lot of reality and historical facts in the novel. And my purpose was, when I saw Kurdish and Jewish people's history, I just think it is very similar, Jewish, Palestinian, Kurdish people. I think we are going in the same circle every 100 years or something like that. And I am very interested in theory, psychological theory. My big question was, what is happening? Why we Kurdish people or Jewish people or Palestinian, we go to the same circle and we have the same problem? And I thought, okay, Freud has a very good theory, and it is like the theory of the pleasure principle, that we people, we are seeking pleasure. So I thought, okay, why we Kurdish people, we don't seek pleasure? What is happening? Why is there so many tragedy and war and atrocity in our history? So then I found out that Freud talks about another thing, that it is repetition compulsion. And I thought, okay, so maybe that is because of repetition compulsion, that we want to, because we have some unsolved problem. It is like an unconscious thing that drives us to go back and repeat the same tragedy. So I think history is so important, because history is not like a linear trajectory that begins from here and ends there, because it may go in the circle, and it may happen that we don't learn from the historical events or historical issues. So I think the history role is so important, because maybe let us to think more about what's happening, why those things happen, those tragedies happens, and maybe we can think differently and do some changes in our thoughts and our psychological aspects.
Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of psychological aspects in your novel. You delve into trauma. What is the purpose behind exploring these psychological aspects?
When we are talking about trauma, I'm talking about not just individual trauma, but collective trauma. As a woman from Kurdistan, I have experienced a lot of like a collection trauma that is very related to that personal, individual trauma as well. So I think delving into those details and nuanced aspects of trauma help me and maybe the reader to understand more about those things that we already talked about okay, what's happening, what happened to the people's souls when they get a lot of stress and distress in their life, and what is the way out of it. So this novel is actually very important with delving into psychological aspect as well, because I think we people from Kurdistan, all of us experienced collective trauma and individual trauma. And Tara, in that novel, experienced loss of dear one, violence and abuse from a man from the same background. So it seems like a individual trauma, and in the same time, it is very related to her collective trauma, that is war and state violence. So she experienced everything in that novel. So I wanted to show that intersectionality as well. How is to be a woman, how is to experience violence and all of those wars, state violence and abuse, sexual abuse, loss of dear ones. So everything is related, and I think it impacts on individuals' life, and maybe give a more empathy. You know, when reader reads that text, maybe get a more empathy to that individual, you know. And in some cases also when you read, you know, sometimes you have prejudice from people from minority groups, and you sweep generalization about them, and then suddenly you read a story about those people and you find out, oh, I am very close to that character, so I can have empathy, I can have understanding. So it is must, because I want to show how is to experience those things, and reader maybe have more understanding and comprehension to those individuals.
Thank you. As a Kurdish writer, what sort of obstacles and struggles do you encounter within your community?
Oh, I have faced a lot of obstacles and challenges. Do you know, the first thing, as a Kurdish woman attack you, it is your sexuality. They call you a loose woman if you break the taboos. I am using to break taboos, and I don't care if they call me those things. But if you break those taboos, so you have to be called like a loose woman or woman that has misconducts. You know, you have to belong to a tribe or clan. So you have to belong to a political party from Kurdistan, or if you are not in a political party, you have to be to have a very, very strong tribe in your back. I don't have those things. I don't belong to a tribe, to a clan. I don't belong to a political party. I stay very alone, in a very lonely position, but I think it is the very best position, because in the end, I feel better when I don't belong to those clan and tribes and parties, political parties, but in the same time, I am very vulnerable to maybe people judge me, people blame me, they condemn me, and my husband is here, my children as well. We experienced a lot, you know, but I am very happy that I got a lot of support, and sometimes I was so sad and I was so intolerant, and Dara helped me to and gave me a lot of support to accept the situation. So I think in the novel I as well mentioned, if you are not nationalist and tribalism, so they call you like a traitor and betrayal as well. So maybe they call me Josh, as they called Tara in the novel. Josh means betrayer and traitor. So I think it is so important to know those obstacles and challenges. It is not just about me, about every woman who break taboos. And when I say taboos, I mean political taboos as well. Because when you are not belong to any political party or tribe, or you are not nationalism, you just be accepted in Kurdish community if you are very nationalist, ultra-nationalist. So you are a good woman. But I don't belong to those categories, and I am very, very alone in a very lonely position, but I think it is the best position.
Now, I've been reading your novel, and I've been wondering all the time, almost, how much of you is it in the novel?
Oh, do you know, it is impossible to write a novel as a writer and don't put yourself in the novel. When I write it, you know, it is from my experience. I couldn't write about a Norwegian woman or a Norwegian man or a woman from Africa or from Afghanistan. I experienced those things a lot, that is in the novel. I experienced myself, but I think my life is very, very boring, so I didn't want to just write about my life. I wanted to use my imagination, put something from my experience in the novel, put the historical reality and memories that I had with like a state violence, with war, with abuses as well, sexual abuses, and then use my imagination. You know, the main character is a single mom with 2 children. I am not a single mom. But everybody read the novel, they say, is it about you? Is it you? Are you not married? Are you available? So it is not just about me, it is about that accumulated grief of my people. Do you know, it is about the divided land that is divided between 4 countries, about all of those collective and individual trauma. But I put all of those reality with imagination as well. And I thought mixing of reality and imagination is so important. And it is impossible to don't see me in that.
I was wondering that. And how did you begin to write? Like, what kind of challenge do you face when you write in English as a non-bilingual writer?
As I mentioned, my children always laugh at my accent, but I don't care. Some words is so. I was not bilingual, you know. I learned English as a good adult, you know. I moved to United States, and each time I opened my mouth, so I thought, oh, it is so difficult to pronounce those words. When I moved, after some years, I moved to Norway, and I had the same problem. So I have 7 languages in my head, and it is so difficult to change channels. And some people look at you as a stupid when you have accent, but I think we who have a lot of languages in our head, I think it gives us more opportunity to understand better, understand deeper, understand the world deeper and better, and comprehend it in another way. So writing in English was like climbing on a mountain with a wheelchair for me. So, but it was better than writing in Norwegian. So I tried first to write in Norwegian, but I found out that you have to be born in Norway or grew up in Norway, so then you can write in Norwegian. But in English, so I tried my best. I got some editors. The first version of my book, it had a lot of problems, so I was so fortunate that I got some help. But I'm improving my English language, but it was not easy, and it is not easy still.
No, I thought it was very, very, it's very rich. So yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. What shall we do? Shall we continue or have a break? I'm also asking the audience. We can have a short break, just 5 minutes for people to maybe get something, drink something, come back. Yes? Shall we do that? After the break, we start with some questions from the audience. We talk something about translation, and then Emmanuel will take over to ask more about the content of the novel. Thank you. begge to. Det er bare at ikke alle snakker begge to så bra. Men hvis dere har spørsmål akkurat nå, bare si frem. Vi kan også gå videre. Var det et spørsmål? Vi kan også gå videre først, og til slutt har dere fortsatt tid til å tenke om hva dere vil snakke om. Så romanen vil bli oversatt til persisk hos Sorani, og vi har oversetten her med oss. Så jeg skal først spørre litt også om dette. Emanuel, hvordan var det for deg å lese romanen? Hvordan ser du på denne romanen fra et persisk perspektiv, som du skal oversette til? Og hvordan tror du at folk vil lese denne romanen i persisk? Synes du at romanen har et budskap til alle minoriserte mennesker i Iran også? Flere spørsmål igjen?
Ja. Jeg kan begynne om forskjellige mellom persisk og farsi. Fordi persisk har en historisk bakgrunn som jeg kan fortelle hvordan kom persisk, men egentlig navn til språk som vi bruker formelt, og vi blir tvunget til å lære alle i Iran, det er farsi. Fordi i Iran gjennomføres alle grunnutdanning på farsi. Derfor nesten alle kan lese farsi versjon av romanen etter blir oversettet. Men det andre problem vi har forskjellige morsmål i Iran, og hvis for eksempel en person har kurdisk, tyrkisk eller annet morsmål, det blir litt vanskelig å skjønne veldig godt begrepet på farsi. Det er en utfordring som gjelder på utdanning også. Men andre, jeg vil påpeke på hovedtemaer i romanen. Det er en Kurdistans samtidig historie, og spørsmålet knyttet til femininitet. Det både er hovedtemaet som forfatter vil gi oss noen informasjon fra sitt perspektiv. Men først og fremst jeg vil si om forskjellige mellom Iran som en politisk modern konsept og geografi, historisk Iran som et begrep som skapes gjennom en prosess som vi sier dannelsen nasjonalstatsmodern som Iran. Det begynte fra 1900-tallet, og derfor sentralisering spilte veldig viktig rolle på denne prosessen, og blant sammen gjennom prosessen det er en nasjonal imagination og en geografiområde. Derfor det er veldig viktig vi tenkte på det, fordi regimet i Iran, i islamisk regime eller før monarkisk regime, representerer en sentralt elit og klasse som vil monopole økonomisk og politisk ressurs og makt. Det veldig viktig vi tenker på det, og romanen vil endre denne imagination. Men den imagination ikke bare knyttet til innbyggere som bor i Iran. Det gjelder til diaspora, fordi vi kan høre og si noen som påpeker Kurdistan har alltid vært en del av Iran, og det ikke mulig Kurdistan eller annet område blir selvstendig. Det en sentrum-idé om imagination, nasjonal imagination om Iran. Derfor romanen prøvde å fortelle annet alternativ historisk om Kurdistan. Hva skjedde egentlig på Kurdistan etter revolusjonen? Jeg kan gi en sitater fra Lenin som sier revolusjonen begynner i det øyeblikket det førige regimet blir styrtet og blir endret. Derfor etter revolusjonen som monarkiregimet nedlagt, begynte revolusjonen, og vi visste noen sentrum for motstand på Kurdistan, på Turkmenistan, på Khuzestan, på Baluchistan. Men fra min side, antirevolusjonsgruppe angrepet hele Iran og undertrykket hele intellektuelle og spesielt venstreorientere. Og kanskje vi kan si stjelet revolusjon fra egentlig revolusjonær.
I 79, ikke sant?
Ja. Men derfor, hvis vi kan begynne å lese om romaner, vi treffer med en karakter som gjennom personlig opplevelse påpeker noen, som Sophie sa, det kollektivt traumer som kommer undertrykke med våpen og dreper mange mennesker og annet. Og det en årsak til kollektivt traumer, til jeg kan ikke si minoritet, folk som bor i Iran, men uenig med formell ideologi. Derfor vi begynner romaner om noen skjedd tragedikk med karakterer, og mistet venn, og noen ble drept på gata og ødelagt hele byen og det. Derfor jeg kategoriserer romanen som en alternativ litteratur som vil komme og motstand med dominert narrativ eller litteratur som publiserer fra regimens side. Som de gjør, kurdere og baluchere eller annet vil separate, og de fiende. Oss som en ikke fakta, det en imaginering som skapet gjennom historie og blant to forskjellige ting. Det en historisk sak som Iran, og en moderne politisk som Iran som nasjonale stat. romanen prøvde å fortelle om det, men jeg tenker det påpeker ikke, eller gir ikke mer fakta og informasjon, historisk informasjon om det. Og jeg tror det er litt vanskelig til publikum eller leser som har ikke god oversikt om kontekst og historie. Og noen ganger blant hverandre og skjønner ikke om det. Det andre ting er om samtidig en av hovedkarakterer som en kvinne som vil definere alternativ femininitet. Og hun vil bli eier på sin kropp. Hun vil kjempe til rettighet til kvinner. Hun blir sårbar av noen mann som representerer seg som politiker, intellektuell, og derfor hun forventer ikke å bli sårbar av dem. Og det to hovedtemaet går samtidig gjennom hele novellen. Og hun vil definere og snakke om noe som er tabu. Kvinner kan ikke snakke om kroppen, erotisk tema, sex, forhold, kjærlighet, sånn offentlig. Derfor det er en annen aspekt som jeg tenkte denne romanen er alternativ. Men vi kan gå videre om det gjennom spørsmålet av Sophie. Men to hovedtemaer er veldig viktig, men jeg må påpeke på det to svak kanskje, eller to mangler ting, som er romaner gir ikke fakta og informasjon om det. Hvis vi kommer og sier for eksempel mannen til hovedkarakteren eller terror, men vi vet, som vi kommer fra denne konteksten, hva skjedde i Iran, og hvorfor en kurdisk politiker eller aktivist ble terror, som skjedde i historie etter revolusjon mange ganger. Men hvis en annen publikum eller leser som har annet bakgrunn og har ikke god oversikt om historie, som vi vet regimet representerer historie, og hovedkampen mellom minoritet og majoritet i hele verden er kampen om historie. Hvem skriver historie, og hvilken versjon skreves historie?
Kanskje vi må langsomt komme til slutt av
Ja. Men det er bare jeg kan fortelle kort om romanen. Ja.
Yeah. So this was the part about how this novel is going to be read in Iran, but the novel will also be translated to Norwegian by Gelayun. So my question for you is, what do you think about the reception of this novel in Norway? How do you think that people will read it here? And do you think it will speak to them to read about a woman living a diasporic life here?
Jeg kan også ta det på norsk, siden jeg tror alle her egentlig forstår norsk. Jeg tenker, nå er ikke jeg etnisk norsk, så jeg kan ikke, men jeg har likevel bodd her lenge nok. Jeg har sett hvordan nordmenn kan se på oss minoriteter, også som kvinnelige minoriteter. Det jeg tenker er viktig, er at den boka representerer et perspektiv fra en minoritetskvinne, marginalisert kvinne, i et samfunn som består av hvit majoritet. Og da tenker jeg det er viktig at den blir lest av alle, for språkmessig er den slik at det inneholder historie, det inneholder et lands historie, folks historie, og så er det tatt fra en kvinneperspektiv, en feministisk perspektiv. Hvordan er det å være for eksempel minoritet i en minoritet? Som kurdisk kvinne i Kurdistan, som kvinne i et hvitt samfunn. Fremmedgjøring er det veldig mye av. Jeg kom på et eksempel, det er ikke så mye om en figur som heter Peter, som hun møter. Det står bare 2 sider om ham. Men allerede der så kommer det så mye kontraster fram i forhold til hvordan man opplever å være fremmed i et samfunn. Hvordan det kan på en måte kollidere med ens egen behov og ønsker og tanker som minoritetskvinne. Og så tenker jeg det er veldig viktig at den blir lest av flest mulig, spesielt da innenfor fagbeltene, innenfor alle som jobber innenfor helsesektoren, alle som jobber med minoriteter, alle som jobber som underviser. Så alle som egentlig er i kontakt med minoriteter til daglig. De fleste er jo det, men allikevel vi er en ganske homogen samfunn. Du kan ikke si at Norge er veldig multikulturell. Det er ikke det. Men allikevel tenker jeg det er veldig viktig. At man får fram det på en måte interseksjonelle perspektivet. At man lærer mest mulig. Det er ikke en fagbok, men det er en fagbok, kan jeg si. Jeg kan ikke, den er lettleselig, den har man på fagbrillene, som jeg har bakgrunn fra interseksjonalitet. Og da for meg så er det bare wow, det var sånn Gud. Så jeg vil anbefale til alle leseren, men så tenker jeg, det er en bok, man begynner å tenke, hvilken etnisitet er det man har, hvor er det vedkommende kommer fra, kan nordmenn lese den, kan persere lese den, kan kurdere lese den, og så tenker jeg, vent litt nå, er det riktig spørsmål? Fordi at vi mennesker, vi skaper grenser, vi skaper tabuer, vi skaper dualitet, vi skaper svart, hvit, god, ond. Noveller, kunnskap, eier ikke grenser. Vi skaper grensene. Så det bør egentlig lese alle sammen. Nå foreligger den på Sorani, den foreligger på engelsk, den kommer på persisk, og så blir den oversatt på norsk, og forhåpentligvis på flere språk. Så jeg sier, bør lese alle egentlig. Ja, takk.
Takk. Tusen takk. So we now switch to the context of the novel, and we first have a short reading by Sophie, and then Emmanuel will ask questions about the context of the novel.
I have to say that Professor Ragnar left us and I am more comfortable right now. Because I know he always evaluates me. So I want to read from some of the last part of the book. And I always felt displaced as a woman. When I left my country, I felt that I am displaced. And in my country, I was displaced as well. And then I want to read that one. There was no choice. I had to leave my homeland and begin a self-imposed exile. I knew a vagrant would have no home, no money, and no status. A vagrant only carries unbearable fatigue, hunger, and perplexity miles and miles away from her homeland and aspiration. A vagrant is always fearful and overwhelmed with anxiety. A vagrant is always considered in the lowest depths of society and afflicted with injustice and prejudice. But was I not a vagrant in my own homeland too? Was I not a stranger in my own country? There would only be one difference if I choose to stay. I would not suffer from the guilt of inflicting pain upon my mother and sisters, but I could not pay any attention to this guilt. Maryam and I were oblivious of the future on that day, but we both knew that I would be a homeless vagrant whether I left or not. We embraced each other for the last time and wept together. And this is very sad. I just want to read a happy ending paragraph. Everything seems so much clearer this morning. The effect of Hanar's advice and her presence. It's a beautiful feeling. I rub my eyes. Blessing be upon the trees. Blessing be upon the sun and the birds. Blessing be upon the scent of the spring. Blessing be upon poetry. Salutation to those I love, and myriad salutation to those who lighted my way by the pain they inflicted upon me. Salutation to Gina Mahsa Amini, to Woman Life Freedom, to Norway. Salutation to myself.
Ja, vi kan begynne på 2 punkter som jeg påpekte der. Du prøvde å skrive en alternativ fortelling om Kurdistan historie akkurat etter revolusjonen i 1979. På boka vi kan føle du har samtidig kritisk mot iranske regime og samtidig kurdisk parti eller samfunn eller kultur. Jeg vil du gir mer informasjon om det og hva felles mellom to for deg, og hva utfordringer hos deg om de to kulturer?
Thank you. Can I answer
Yeah,
in
yeah.
English? Do you know, as I mentioned before, I have very lonely position, and I am against ultranationalism and tribalism. And I think I can criticize both Iranian Islamic regime, and in the same time I criticize the Kurdish party as well. Because if, as a woman, you don't have individuality, you have to belong to some parties. I am so lonely in that position. I don't have any support if I have any activities, so I feel that because I have that position that I criticize or has a critic perspective to both Kurdish parties and Iranian regime, so I don't have a place in any categories, and I am not belonging to any of those categories. So I think I want to keep my individuality, and I cannot keep my individuality if I just stay silent against Kurdish party as well. Because as a woman, if you are not ultra-nationalism, if you don't chant about Kurdistan, and if you criticize Kurdish parties, so suddenly, as I explained, you are a betrayer, you are a traitor in that some community. I don't want to belong to collection identity. Do you know? I am individual, and that when you lose your individual identity, so it is a very good way to fascism to flourish. Do you know? Fascism always likes like a collective chanting. People go together, move together, chant together, but that's why I'm against not against, but have like a critical perspective. In chapter 31, everybody is invited to a Mahkoli, which is like a shaman, is a very wise woman. She celebrates her 90 years old birthday, and there are a lot of people. They meet each other and they're against each other. Most of them are Kurdish, but some Persian and Turkish there as well. So Mahkoli tries to give a better milieu and atmosphere to the environment and to the party, but she can't, in the end, because everybody is engaged in their political perspective. One is nationalism, one is communism, one is ultra-nationalism, one is religious, another is like ex-communism or ex-capitalism. So everybody is against each other, and everybody thinks that they are in the correct position. So I want to criticize all of those, because I respect a lot individuality, and I think individuality is so important, and we have to restore it as a novelist or one who is engaged with like a feminist or activist.
Ja, jeg skjønner hva du mente om det, men fra min psykologi eller politisk psykologi-perspektiv, hvis vi kan snakke om individualisme eller personlighetssak, jeg tenker personlighet en simpel av konflikter som skjer i samfunnet. Vi vet Kurdistan har en lang historik, og politisk historisk, kulturhistorisk og forskjellige partier, det samme annet samfunnet. Men for eksempel vi kan påpeke på Genjian Azadi-bevegelse, som kommer først og fremst fra kurdisk politisk bevegelse. Derfor jeg tenker det ikke så det sosial sak eller naturlig som et samfunn har hatt konflikt mellom ideer. Yeah. Men du påpeker, de må for eksempel en nasjonalisme, overnasjonalisme og kommunister og annet, de må komme litt nær hverandre og hjelper til en dypere dannelse, en dypere demokrati.
Yes.
Men jeg tenkte det en litt idealisk tanke, fordi det en prosess i historie. Det kommer alt fra motstand til hverandre. Og jeg vil litt du forteller mer om politiske ideer som du kritikk om partiet. Ikke individual explore, det bare som politiske ideer som har du hodet. Ja.
When I talk about individualism, I don't talk about like a selfish individualism. That's why I bring Rumi. I think we have to be united based on universal values, we don't need parties or ideology. Ideology is always, as I mentioned, always try to that people move together and chant together, and then it will be like a category. I am a communism, you are nationalism, you are socialism, you are capitalism, so we don't understand each other. But if we just took those ideology aside, and think about universal values. So maybe it opens another way. That's why, you know, it was so difficult for me to write that novel until I found Mahkoli's character. You know, Mahkoli is maybe it seems very like a idealistic symbol or like a shaman. You cannot find her in the reality. But to be honest, I found many women like. That's why I think women should lead the world. Do you know? I found so many women like Mahkoli, that character who is a wise woman. He went through a lot of atrocity, a lot of trauma. She lost 9 of her children. Do you know? She lost all of those dear ones, and she experienced a lot. But she beholded and kept the love and unity, and she tried to unite everybody across their ideology. You know, ideology is like, for example, in Kurdish parties, we are so engaged to make murder and martyrdom. We just chanting like Shahid Namere.
Martyrs don't die.
Yeah, so martyrdom is so important. So I am so afraid of that, because human life is much more important than any other ideology. If it is like and I am very afraid of, even though I belong to like a West parties, or maybe West thinking perspective, but not parties, sorry. But I think one of the things that is very worry me, and it is dangerous, is to like give a more value to ideology than people's life. You know, I find it in every ideology, and that ideology, if it is communism or nationalism, that say I will bring heavenly paradise on earth. It is the most dangerous ideology, because as Islamic regime of Iran or any other ideology, they say, okay, we bring heavenly paradise. Communism say the same thing as well. And suddenly, with the name of people, they came to power and they destroy everything. They make a hell of the situation. And they make not only the heavenly paradise on the world, but they make hell. And we see it. There are a lot of examples during the history, and right now in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Rusland, in China, in United States, in many countries. So that's why I say individualism, but not a selfish individualism.
Jeg skjønner, men humanisme selv en ideologi. Som vi vet, som skjedde i Palestina-saken. Alle tenker om humanisme og FN og annet, men folk kan ikke stoppe genocide. Men vi kan over på annet spørsmål. Du skrev romanen i en tid da du var langt borte fra konteksten, der noen av hendelsene i romanen din finner sted. Når det gjelder tid og sted. Med andre ord, i romanen gjenskaper du tidligere hendelser fra dagens perspektiv. Hvordan opplevde du denne utfordringen som forfatter?
Do you know, it was not easy to, I left Iran in 2000, so I had some contacts through like some woman group with Iranian activism, but I was I had a long distance with Iran and with the changes that happened. But I tried to read a lot. I read almost everything. When I write a novel, I think writing a novel is not just using imagination, maybe because of my academic background. I think it is so important to do research. I did a lot of research. I mentioned in the back of the book as well. I interviewed a lot of women and men in different countries. I traveled, I called them, I talked with them, and I asked them, what is their perspective, what is their experience? Some of those interviews was more than maybe several days, I talked with them. I read all of those books that was about their memory, their autobiography, and I interviewed some new generation people that they left in after 2015 and 16, So I accept your perspective and your question, but I think because I did those research and those interviews and read almost every book about the history and themes, so I felt comfortable, especially when I found Makuli's character. So I said, okay, I can, even though I am far from Iran, but I can begin to write that and mix reality with imagination.
Ja, men det siste spørsmål, som jeg vet alle kanskje har blitt litt sliten om lang debatt, men ja, dine kvinnekarakterer, spesielt hovedkarakter, det hun vil kjempe mot vold og ønsker verden, jeg skrev Kurdistan, verden, som fritt for seksuell og kjønnsdiskriminering, og som fremmer kvinnes subjektiv, ikke å være objektiv. Og og håper dannelsen en dypere, mer mangfoldig og inkluderende demokrati som sikrer en rettferdig fordeling av makt og rikdom. Jeg som oversetter, jeg kan se de emner på din roman. Men fra annen side, som en person som opptatt med feminisme og seksualitet eller skeive politikk, jeg føler din kjønnsspråk som forfatter, kjønnsspråk og perspektivet i romanen heteronormativ, og romanen reproduksjon kjønnsbinæri mellom kvinne og mann, og noen sosiale roller som å være mor, å være en kone og kvinnekropp. Spesielt når karakterer snakker om erotisk forhold og kroppen og annet. Men jeg tenker på siste feministiske bølger. Vi alle som kjemper til en feministisk mål og annet, vi tar en skeive språk og knysse kjønnsbeiner som en klisjé fra patriarkal kultur eller en begrenset kjønnsperspektiv. Jeg lurer på om hvorfor du bruker ikke en skeive språk, hvorfor du går over av tradisjonsroll til kvinner og reproduksjonen, det på romanen, som du sier du feminist og aktivist, og jeg som en spesielt publikum, jeg venter du bruker en mer radikale språk.
I appreciate your question, and I think it is a very good critic. It was not my intention to reproduce duality and that patriarchal and traditional role of women in that novel. But I was very aware if I write about LGBTQ problems, I had a lot of maybe reader and better opportunity to publish my book. some of agents that I contacted, they said, oh, if you write a book about LGBT, like a lesbian woman from Kurdistan, we support you. And if I got support from those publishers, so my book had a better opportunity, you know. But I was not shaped. I am not lesbian or from LGBT group, and I respected minorities, every minority. But you know, I don't want to just publish something that I have no experience with it. If I was from that group and I knew their problem, I welcomed the idea and addressed maybe those problems, but I was not. I had no experience to be from that minority group. So even though if I, but I'm not angry with you that it is not a radical language, because you know, in that novel I break a lot of taboo. I talk about erotic. In chapter 13, when Galayel, you read it, you said, oh, it is not so erotic. But the Kurdish, maybe from your perspective, it is because we are from a very, like a closed society, more closed than European, like for American editor, I had 4 editors, one from Australia, one from Canada, one from America, and one from England. For them, it was nothing, that chapter. But for the Kurdish translator, do you know, he translated with much taste and favor. And then he said, oh my God, how you dare to write it, not in a negative way, in a very positive way. And he said, oh, maybe each Kurdish man or women as well, when they read that one in Kurdish, they began to masturbate. So I said, oh, okay, so they will sell a good copies of the book because of it. So I was radical, I think. I broke those taboos, not political taboo, but sexual taboo as well. As a woman, stay in front of mirror, talks about, look at her breast, and then talks about her her desire, you know, sexual desire, erotic desire. This is not normal. Maybe some people, you know, I expose myself in a very dangerous, very vulnerable situation, because a Kurdish man read that and think, oh, okay, we are right, she is a loose woman. She talks about her vagina, or woman vagina, do you know. It is very radical in that point, do you know, because you break the political power and you just want to ask that power relation, do you know? Power dynamic, power hierarchy, and you criticize it, and then you go to sexual taboos, and you want to say something, showcasing desire, woman desire. Do you know? None of, maybe I cannot say none, but maybe 90% of women in our community, Kurdish community, or maybe Middle Eastern community, they don't know anything about woman desire. Do you know? They don't know which part of woman enjoys best in sexual relationship. Do you know? So I think those things is important, even though I put myself in a very vulnerable and maybe dangerous situation. But in the same time, it is very rewarding for me, you know. Some people may criticize me, but I don't care. And when I wrote it, I didn't think about my reader, do you know. But when I finished and it was published, suddenly I thought about reader. Okay, how reader will judge me? And it was already late, you know. So I agree with you. I am respecting all of your perspectives and your questioning, but in the same time, I think I disagree that it is not radical. Even though it reproduces those traditional role of women, but sorry, I hadn't any experience from LGBT community, and I wish I had. You know, maybe for the next novel, I can have more interviews with people from LGBTQ community, so I can bring their voices, because it is a minority voice and it is so important. Their voice And this novel is about minority people, marginalized people, voiceless people. So I think it is so important. Maybe you can write some novel about those people, and we need those things. You know, it is so important.
Ja, takk. Et kommentar om det. Ja, jeg mente ikke du skriver om LGBTQ eller skeive politikk. Jeg snakker om språk. Som skeive språk betyr ikke du skriver om skeive mennesker eller annet. En språk som endret struktur, om imagination, om binary, kjønnsbinary i verden. Men det er litt vanskelig, men vi har en lang historisk om erotikk litteratur i persisk, tyrkisk og arabisk.
From a woman perspective or from men?
Fra menn og women også. Men det er radikalt. Men fra min side som forventer en engelsk roman som kommer og viser kvinner av Kurdistan eller Iran. Jeg spurte av deg om du har lang fartid og sted med Iran, fordi hvis jeg kan tilbake på vanlig litteratur i Iran, jeg kan se nye generasjon går over mye av tradisjon klisjé og skriver mye mer radikal på chatten, og det er performansen på gata om det. Og derfor jeg tenkte, ja, det er problem for oss som forsker og forfatter å skrive til annet sted som vi burde for eksempel 10 år. Vi kan lese mange ting om området, men jeg tenker vi har ikke egentlig opplevelse som personer gjør på gata i Iran eller Kurdistan. Det er en
ja. Vi er ikke i daglig liv.
Ja. Okay. Takk. Vær så god.
Jo, tusen takk. Kanskje vi har fortsatt spørsmål fra salen? Is there anyone who would like to ask a question?
Everyone is correct.
I know it has been a long event. Ja.
Altså, det snakker om, nå tenker jeg ikke bare som et forhold til boka, men det blir hele tiden referert til historien til Iran eller Irak, altså disse landene som Kurdistan omgir seg med. Hvor mange ulike minoritetsgrupper innenfor det kurdiske folket er det egentlig? Og det er som norsk og afrikansk opprinnelse. Så jeg kommer jo fra et afrikansk land hvor det er 74 lokale språk, og så er det da delt i 8 hovedgrupper av de største gruppene. Hvordan er det i forhold til Iran eller Irak eller Kurdistan?
Jeg kan svare, også du kan kanskje tilføye hvis dere vil. Jeg tror, hvis du mener innen Iran, vi har azerier eller tyrker, det er litt sånn diskusjon hva vi skal kalle dem. Vi har kurdere, vi har balucher, vi har også mazanderani, eller de som bor mazani. Arabere, ja. Vi har arabere, så det er inni den de som kaller seg fars. Det er også fra en by til neste by er det forskjellig kultur i arkitekt, i dialekt, så det er akkurat som Norge, du går fra en by til andre by er det forskjellig dialekt, men det er mange etnisiteter, Vet du, det masse forskjellige, men du kan tilføye litt mer, eller?
Ja, som jeg påpeker først om romaner, vi må forskjelle mellom to ting. Vi har en Persia-geografi historisk, som ikke egentlig historisk fakta. Mange kommer fra imagination av intellektuelle og historier som sitter og skriver det. Men vi har en moderne politisk Iran som nasjonal stat. Det forskjellige. Og det Midtøsten, vi bor sammen for vi politikere og vi kan si koloniere kommer og begrenser land. For eksempel kurdere var på en stor område, men de spilte en viktig rolle på krigen og politisk forhold mellom Osmania og gamle Iran og annet. Men i moderne tida, på nasjonalstaten perspektiv som skjedde i Europa først, alle land trengte å begrense ressurs og kapitalet. Derfor begrense blir veldig viktig å nå en ny område som nasjon og nasjonalstat skapet på prosessen. Derfor hvert område bor mange ulike noen sa nasjon, noen sa etnik, og bor sammen, og noen politiske konflikter begynner fra for eksempel kurdere delte på 4 forskjellige land, eller azerier blir forskjellige med 2 land og annet. Det det vår situasjon i Midtøsten.
Ja, altså vi føler veldig sånn at vi kurdere vi en koloni av Iran. Vet du, selv om vi opprinnelig, kanskje mange sier vi var første som egentlig opprettet sånn stat og sånne ting i Iran, i det området som i dag kalles Iran, men det aldri kalt Iran før. Men etter den, som du nevnte, den nasjonalistbevegelse i Europa, så kom til Midtøsten, og så de laget grenser. Men problemet alle de minoriteter, vi kan ikke kalle minoritet, men minoritet i makt, mener jeg. De føler at de en del av koloni av Iran, de ble kolonisert. Ja. Vil du tilføye?
Vi har flere spørsmål, så Benjamin og Anna? Har du? Nei?
Har du spørsmål? Ja.
Først og fremst gratulerer med boka, og veldig glad i det, så må fortsette å skrive. Det var en samtale her som interesserte meg litt. Det handlet om ideologi. Fordi når jeg tenker på ideologi, så ideologi på en måte selve livet vårt. Hvordan vi skriver, hvordan vi tenker, hvordan vi spiser og sånt. Det jo en form for ideologi egentlig. Så også det mange som sa at du feminist, og feminist en sånn type ideologi. Og så fikk jeg også lagt merke til at du ønsker å samle de type ideologiene i form av universelle verdier. Og hvilke universelle verdier det menneskerettigheter man snakker om, så det også 100% politikk i det. Og så var det den at skal man leve som individ og være seg selv og utvikle seg til, så det ideologier som vil hindre det, da. Og så det ideologier som jobber for at vi nettopp kan gjøre det. Så spørsmålet mitt litt sånn her, hvem det som har skrevet denne romanen, og hvilke prinsipper og ideologi har forfatteren? Det en veldig komplisert spørsmål.
Ja. Jeg forventet en sånn spørsmål fra deg.
Ok, så det er bra.
Altså, vet du, før jeg går videre og svarer deg, i 2000 jeg har litt annen bakgrunn og erfaringer som kanskje hjelper å forstå meg litt mer. Først og fremst, jeg vil ikke legge meg i ramme. Som mange sier, det er veldig vanskelig å være kunstner. Jeg er filmmaker også, og forfatter. Så det er for meg som forfatter og filmskaper, det er veldig vanskelig å sette meg i ramme. Jeg sier jeg er feminist, men ikke på alle måter. Jeg respekterer den feministiske ideologien, fordi det viser alt som alle ideologier, som handler om menneskeverdi, universelle verdier, er veldig respektfull for meg. Men problemet med alle de ideologiene for meg er når det kommer til makt, hierarki. Power relation. Så når du er i kollektiv identitet, så du må følge og må ha lojalitet. Hvis du er i en parti, det skjedde i mange eksemplarer. Så en mann misbruker en kvinne, og så fordi den mannen er i en parti, alle er lojal mot den mannen og blir stille. Men hvis den mannen var ikke i den partien, så alle kunne. Så å være i en parti eller del av en ideologi er en sånn beskyttelse for mange. Derfor jeg sa jeg føler veldig sånn alene posisjon for meg selv. Altså, jeg selv kommer fra kurdisk delen av eller Rojhelat, og det var sånn fra helt da jeg var veldig liten. Min bror var i en politisk parti, og så det var krig mellom to kurdiske partier, og så min bror mistet livet der, uten at han var bare 19 år gammel. Så fra den dagen jeg hadde veldig sterk kritisk perspektiv. Ok, hva handler om ideologi? Og de to partiene, de snakket om freedom of speech, menneskerettighet, de snakker om alle de verdiene, men de kunne ikke tåle hverandre. Så det som kritiseres er lojalitet innen en frame, eller ramme, og også å undertrykke alle de verdiene som de hevder at de følger. Vet du? Også, jeg husker i 2013, tror jeg fikk en litteraturpris i Norge, og siden 2-3 kurdiske partier, de prøvde å involvere meg, og jeg ville ikke være i det. Jeg respekterte alle de, og jeg respekterer det de har gjort, men jeg ville ikke være en del av dem. Og så jeg hadde en sånn vanlig klær som akkurat nå. Og så jeg ble invitert til en samling med kurdere, og så jeg satt med min norsk kollega foran, så var det 10 menn bak meg, kurdiske menn, og de snakket så stygg om meg, min klær, min kropp, og så alle var fra i hvert fall 3 forskjellige partier. Og jeg tenkte, ok, hvor er min plass i dette sånn masse kategorier? Det handler ikke om at de snakket stygg om meg. De gjør mot alle kvinner som står helt alene. Derfor jeg tror den ramme jeg respekterer alle de partiene og ideologiene som respekterer menneskeverdi, de kjemper for menneskerettighet og freedom of speech, men i realiteten vi ser at egentlig det er de som hevder mer, de undertrykker mest kvinner. Så derfor kan ikke ha jeg som en forfatter. Det er jeg som skrev den boka, og for å svare den, men det er en kvinne uten ramme. Du kan kalle meg som hva som helst, definere meg hva som helst, men jeg kan ikke sette meg i ramme, beklager. Men jeg respekterer. Ja, korrekt.
Men en kommentar jeg sa til deg. Jeg er uenig med deg, fordi hvis du skriver en setning, du skaper en verdighet i verden.
Den er
Derfor du har, fordi mennesker en simpel av situasjon, økonomi og politisk situasjon. Vi kan gjøre mange ting, ubevissthet. Derfor alle som gjør noen ting, det politisk. Og oksygen, som vi husker, det politisk.
ja, jeg er ikke uenig.
Derfor, hvis noen sier ja, jeg vil ikke definere meg på fremme eller ideologi, på filosofisk perspektiv, det selv en ideologi.
Beklager, men jeg bare kommentere? Ja, beklager. Men det er veldig stor forskjell mellom å kritisere power structure, power relation. I begynnelsen jeg sa at alt som handler om makt, politisk. Jeg politisk. Jeg kan ikke si jeg ikke politisk. Jeg en kvinne som, hvis noen definerer deg selv, grenseløs politisk kvinne, som kjemper mot alle slags hierarki i makten. Vet du? Hvis den ideologien du tilhører, eller jeg tilhører, tar bort alle de hierarkiene, så jeg med. Så det du snakker om, power relation, eller makt, og jeg politisk.
Derfor du har en posisjon, da.
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Ja, ok.
Det klangen deres å plassere folk. Det for å kunne definere Essmat, så har dere behov å plassere henne et eller annet sted. Og så at hun en ideologi. Det det som jeg hører skjer. Det veldig, veldig vanskelig å se en person som sier nei, jeg står utenfor. Fordi det blir veldig vanskelig å si ja, men hvordan kan hun gjøre det?
Ja.
Det som
fascinerende med det du sier.
Altså, det handler om norske samfunn også. I norske samfunn, hvis jeg sier jeg fra Midtøsten og jeg har ikke noe religion, så de ser veldig rart på meg, og de kan ikke kjenne meg, fordi de vil ha en ramme rundt meg. Og jeg blir plutselig veldig sånn farlige mennesker som har ingen noe grenser, vet du. Men hvis jeg sier jeg en kvinne med hijab fra Midtøsten, så da de vet at her rammen min. Og så jeg veldig enig med deg. Jeg har det problemet at folk liker ikke meg, fordi jeg har ikke noe rammer rundt meg, og de kan ikke sette meg i definisjon. Så derfor kanskje det vanskelig for deg å definere meg også, fordi jeg lar ikke deg å definere meg, jeg lar ikke deg å sette meg i en posisjon. Jeg kurder, selvfølgelig jeg aldri nekter at jeg fra en nasjon som nasjonløs og ble undertrykket. Jeg en kvinne, jeg kanskje tradisjonelt sett, eller på hva som helst grunn, jeg ble mor. Også jeg har veldig kritisk perspektiv på makt, og jeg respekterer alle universelle verdier, men jeg har ikke noen definisjon utenom det.
Ja, jeg tenker det.
Ja, vi kan fortsette diskusjonen etterpå. Tusen takk for publikum som har vært veldig tålmodig. Også tusen takk til panelen. Jeg har litt noe for dere, blomster som blir praktisk på grunn av at det kaldt. Men tusen takk.
Neste gang.